Good afternoon. Glad to have you with us today. I'm Mark Baldoff, pastor at Pioneer Baptist Church, and so glad to say hi to my Pioneer family. And if you are a regular attender of our church, you probably have been excited about the opportunity to come back together, and we are making plans to do that on May the 24th. And so I hope that you'll be able to join us with that. And I want to assure you that we're doing everything we can to make sure that we have the safest environment possible. And I want to go through a few of the guidelines that we have come up with as an administrative committee at Pioneer Baptist Church to make sure that safety is taking place for you and that you have a safe environment. I want to remind you that, of course, if you are in that group of individuals that is most at risk for COVID-19, we encourage you to stay at home. We still plan on broadcasting and doing everything with our live streaming, and so you'll still be able to worship with us. And we encourage you to do that from home. We also want to encourage those that are living with those that fall into that category that are most at risk, or if you have been sick, we do not want you to come here and risk infection of yourself, further infection of yourself, or infection of others. And so we're asking those two groups specifically to please stay at home so that you can ensure your safety and the safety of others. But if you are a member of our church and are interested in coming back and feel like you want to go ahead and join us, I want to assure you that we are taking all the steps necessary to abide by the guidelines that have been given to us by our governor. And we want to just share with you quickly how we're planning on doing that. We want you to know that we are going to encourage everyone to wear masks. Now, we can't enforce that. We won't enforce that fully and completely, but we want to encourage that strongly, especially as you come into our building and into our facilities and as you sit down. Once you get into your seat, have already set things up, as we'll talk about in a moment, about making sure that you're at least 6 feet apart. In fact, you're going to be at least 7 feet apart. But in order to ensure your safety, we want to encourage you to wear those masks, especially as you're coming into the building and as you take your seats. Once you get to your seat, we're going to ask you to stay there, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. We want to encourage you to have your temperature taken before you come in. We will have thermometers available, and we will be taking those temperatures just to ensure that you aren't sick and to make sure that you are safe to enter into our premises. And we want to ask you to do that. We're going to ask everyone to practice the physical distancing, the social distancing as it's been called, that is to stay at least 6 feet apart from one another. We ask you to do that because we want to make sure everyone feels comfortable and safe as they come onto our campus. And the best way you can do that, I know you're excited and can't wait to hug people and say hi to people and shake hands, but we're going to ask you to refrain from that just to ensure the safety and the comfortableness of anyone that happens to come and join us for worship on Sunday the 24th. We also want you to know that we are going to do our best to make sure you don't have to touch any surfaces. We will have greeters there to open the doors for you, and the doors will be open. We will have our main doors into our sanctuary propped open, so you should not have to handle anything. We want to encourage you as you enter into our building to make sure you use hand sanitizer. That's a way to make sure that your hands are clean when you come in. We're going to have that hand sanitizer available to you as you come in and as you leave so that you can ensure safety. Remember, one of the main ways that the coronavirus is spread from person to person is through hand-to-hand touching and then touching your face. So we encourage you, don't touch your face while you're here the best you can. But if you use that hand sanitizer and don't touch anyone, you should be safe and ready to go. And we encourage you to do that. We also want to encourage you to understand that we cannot congregate in our foyer. I know that's one of the favorite places for fellowship that we have in our church. And so we're asking you, as soon as you come into the building, go into our sanctuary to be seated. And I want to share with you how we're asking families to seat as we come together on that Sunday. Our two center sections are separated into groups of chairs of 6 apiece. And so what we want to invite our families that are 4 or more to take those seats. We have every other row blocked off. It'll be pretty obvious which ones are open, which ones aren't. We're asking you to go and take your seat in the center aisle if you have a family that is 4 or more. We're going to ask you to sit in the center of that aisle, away from the edges of the aisles. And so as you sit on your row, if there's 4 of you, we're going to ask you to leave those 2 end seats empty and have all 4 of you in the center. Obviously, if you're a family of 6, you'll fill up the whole row. You're going to pack a pew, so to speak, and we welcome you to do that, encourage you to do that. But we're going to ask our families to do that and to take up those center aisles. This will help us to maximize our seating capacity with our rows being cut off every other row. If you are a family of 3 or less, and that includes individuals that are by themselves, we're going to ask you to sit on one of our ends. So on one of our side sections. Those sections have 8 seats in them. In order to maintain that safe social distancing of 6 feet, we need to leave 3 sets of chairs or 3 chairs in between you and the family that's next to you. And so the best way to do that, we'll have groups of 3 and 2 or 1 sit on those side rows, and you'll sit on the aisles. So we encourage you to sit on the aisle, leave 3 seats between you and the next person, and then what we can do is maximize getting as many as 5 people in each one of those rows on our sides, and that will help us to make sure that everyone that comes is seated. We will have the fellowship hall set up and ready for extra folks if we do need overflow, but at this time, the way things are looking, there's a good chance that we'll probably be able to safely sit everyone in our sanctuary. And we hope that you will come and join us if you feel comfortable doing that. Also want to encourage you to realize and understand that while we're worshiping, we're going to ask you to stay in your seat. We understand this is a friendly church, and you're going to be seeing some people you may not have seen in months, literally months. But we're going to ask you to maintain that social distancing and minimize the exposure from one family to another by staying in your seat. Pull out your cell phone. You can text one another. You can call one another. Encourage you to do that. Put on speakerphone. We want to sort of simulate the experience of being together and fellowshipping with one another the best we can. So call each other up on your cell phone, put it on speakerphone, and talk to one another. I know this may seem a little silly to be in the same room with someone you're talking to on the phone, but this way we can ensure that you're not going all around and possibly spreading germs wherever you go, and you're able to still talk and fellowship with one another. We also want to let you know that there are special guidelines that have been given to us by the governor about the use of restrooms in churches. And so these are unique to churches, but we're going to try to abide by them, and you can help us to do that. The request is that we should only have one person in a bathroom at a time, and so we will have a monitor that will be there. Welcome you in if you're the first person there, but also keep anyone from coming in on you. What we're asking you to do, we will have wipes available for you. We're asking you, when you have completed the process of using the restroom, just wipe down the seat, wipe down everything. We'll have some seat covers available as well for those that will feel more comfortable having those available. And then we ask you to wash your hands for the required or the suggested 20 seconds. We encourage you to do that. Sing Jesus Loves Me while you're washing your hands. And when you've completed washing your hands, use that paper towel or use a Clorox wipe that happens to be there to open up the door handle as you leave the restroom. Throw that in the garbage can as you're leaving, and you should be leaving that bathroom nice and clean for whoever comes in after you. And that way we can ensure the safety and do the best we can to keep any spreading of any germs that may be there from happening. We also want you to know that one of the big challenges of what's been given to us is, how are we supposed to wear masks and sing at the same time? We understand that we love to sing as Baptists, and we love to sing at Pioneer, and we want to worship God. We're called to do that in Scripture. And the best way we can do that, to be honest with you, is to try to do our best to wear that mask. Now, I know there's plenty of suggestions on which masks work best. We've been told that perhaps the bandana style mask will help you best to be able to sing and be comfortable as you're singing, because many of the tight-fitting masks will start to drop as we move our mouths up and down. So you figure out which mask works best for you. We will also have masks available for you when you come here on campus if you don't have one or have forgotten yours at home, and that will be available to you if you so choose to use one of those masks. So we will encourage you to wear the mask while we're singing. I know that that makes it a challenge, but we understand and realize that this is one of the ways that we can help prevent the spread of the germs during our worship service. Also, uh, we will not be having our normal greeting time at the beginning of service. So we'll sing that first opening hymn. We'll have our message and we'll have some singing at the close of the service. And that way we'll be able to worship together. But we're asking you to understand that we just can't have the physical contact that we're so used to having in our worship service at this time. We'll get back to that someday. But right now, we're going to have to try to maintain a sense of distance as we go through this. We also want to encourage you to realize that we want to be very orderly as we leave. The best way to make sure that everything is safe as we're leaving is that we'll just sort of dismiss in an organized fashion. Like if you go to a wedding, we'll have someone there and we'll go with the back rows and they will be released first. We're asking you to go immediately to the back doors. We'll have the doors open and ready for you as you leave. Sanitize your hands as you go outside, and we understand you're going to want to fellowship a little bit. We encourage you to do that outdoors. For one thing, it's just a safer area, especially if the sun is shining. There's a lot of evidence that UV lighting of the sun will help to minimize any exposure to any potential germs that are out there. And we encourage you to fellowship the way you feel comfortable, but for the comfortableness of everyone, we ask you to do that away from our doors, to do that either in the yard that we have or farther away in the parking lot, so that those who want to go straight to their cars and leave the premises will be able to do that. We hope that you will indeed understand that these are necessary steps we have to take. Our invitation will be a little different, and we'll give you some more direction on that. We will not be allowed to have childcare at least until the middle of June, when we will be getting more guidelines, and we'll be trying to figure out with our children's department how to set that up and whether or not we can do children's church come time for those guidelines to be given to us by our governor. The best that we can adhere to them, that's what we want to do to ensure the safety of you and your children. So we hope you'll come and join us, but we also want you to know that if you choose not to come, we totally understand that. We want you to know that we're not going to judge anyone that is unable to come or chooses not to come and would prefer to worship at home the way that they've been worshiping. I know that these guidelines put a lot of restrictions on us and sort of rob us from the freedom that we're so used to having. But I want to encourage you to understand that we are doing this to make sure that every single person that comes to Pioneer Baptist Church knows we love them and care about their safety. And I realize there are a lot of different ideas out there about what to do and what not to do, and when we should have had worship and whether we should have it now. But we believe as an administrative committee that this is the best plan that we can do to give us the opportunity to worship in person with one another, but also guarantee the safety of everyone that comes. And so we encourage you to do that. I realize that we have as many different opinions about church and how to meet as there are a number of people in our wonderful church. But I want to remind you of a few Bible verses that I hope will be a blessing for you as you consider how to respond to these guidelines, as we consider how to live with them. We encourage you to consider what the scriptures say. You know, Paul said in 1 Corinthians, everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible, but not everything builds up. No one is to seek his own good, but the good of the other person. And so I encourage you to realize that we are doing this to help maintain the security of the individual that is most concerned about their health. And we understand that. But we love them and we want them to feel free and comfortable in the worship experience at Pioneer Baptist Church. And I hope that you will help us to do that. Galatians tells us that we are called to be freed, brothers and sisters. But don't use that freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but serve one another through love. For the whole law is fulfilled in one statement: love your neighbor as yourself. Let's remember that. We are called to be a unified body of Christ. Jesus said this, by this everyone will know you're my disciples if you love one another. And I'm hoping that our love for one another, our unity, will be a witness to the world of the reality that Pioneer Baptist Church truly is a group of believers in Jesus Christ and that he affects the way we live our lives. Jesus told his disciples, if anyone wants to be first, he must be last and servant of all. I encourage you to do that as we go through this process. Please be looking for those guidelines in the email that you'll be receiving shortly. And then also remember that we are going to be kicking off our Sunday morning worship on May the 24th at 10 in the morning. And then we want to invite those of you that feel comfortable to help us go through the process on May the 20th, Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. We're going to do a run through. We're going to do everything we can. We're going to have real worship on that Wednesday night. We're going to be worshiping God, but we're going to be practicing these guidelines. We're going to be making sure we work out all the kinks so that as you come to worship on Sunday morning, we hope that things will go smoothly. It's going to take a little longer to get in church, so encourage you to come a few minutes earlier than maybe you typically do to the worship service, and then understand that it's going to take a little longer to get out. But believe it or not, I'm actually going to try to shorten my sermon a little bit. That will not be a permanent adjustment. I just warn you, but we're going to try to do that so that you can have a great worship experience and so that everyone can be comfortable and not be here for too long a period of time. We're so glad to be looking forward to, and I hope that you will be able to join us either online or in person. God bless you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.